So we finally have the full trailer for the Rings of Power. Not just a teaser, but a fully fledged trailer where they are definitely giving us everything they've got. Let's get into it.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
So let's get this out of the way from the start. There has been quite a lot of hate towards this show, and in many ways, I can agree with it. There has been some insanely questionable decisions made, ones that, if I were in charge, definitely wouldn't have happened. But I'm not. I'm sure they have far smarter and more suitable people in the role than me, so who am I to judge? Now, although there are many aspects that I have been unhappy with, the reveal of the orcs for this show and then the previous teaser has certainly upped my optimism somewhat. I'm still not 100% sold, but we are definitely heading in the right direction. I'm happy to say that I think this full trailer continues in that trend, and then some. Again, it's not perfect by any stretch, but this trailer truly begins to show some of the crazy epicness that is the Second Age of Middle-earth. I will give my full and 100% honest thoughts on this towards the end of the video, but let's go through it first. We begin with a shot of Galadriel placing an elven helmet into a pile of other helmets. A voiceover says, "We thought at last, the war was ended." The wide shot of the helmets I think is intentionally coloured to look like a mountain of skulls, which on first viewing I actually thought it was. There is also a very clear division of light between Galadriel's side on the left and then the darkness on the right, clearly visually representing hope versus, well, death. We then move into some shots of Imladris and Elrond with a voiceover and montage of the elven race explaining how they thought the world would continue to be light and that peace would never end. The contrast then starts with Lenny Henry's line that the skies are strange. This is followed by the shot of the meteor approaching. Then, and this is interesting, it appears we see Galadriel in Numenor with Tar Miriel, looking into the Palantir. As she touches it, we get flashes of war and death, and I have to be honest, not only do these quick shots of the battles look fantastic, but they also look very real. No matter what your opinion is on how they are handling the lore, you have to give credit where credit is due. A lot of this show looks fantastic visually. We then have a line that says "Evil does not sleep," and a nice change in the music, hitting some notes reminiscent of Howard Shore's Isengard theme. This is followed by a shot of who I can only assume is Sauron, or at least a very evil looking blonde elf. If this is Sauron in his Anatar form, then I am again a little disappointed with the short hair. It's a choice that I really cannot understand or get my head around at all, but I will not let an aesthetic decision completely ruin the show for me. The next shot is of doors opening in front of an armoured figure. As this is followed on from the shot of the short-haired elf, I will assume that both are Sauron. We then see some more of Khazad-dûm, or Moria, which I honestly think looks spot on, exactly how I would have imagined it in its prime. The contrast of blue and orange light is absolutely stunning. There is then a dwarven voiceover that mentions a tempting shadow that could bury us all beneath the mountain. I would again assume that this is in reference to the offer of a ring of power by Sauron. Tempting shadow sounds very much like Sauron in the Second Age. We then get the first actual mention of the Dark Lord, beginning with Galadriel saying that he has not one name, but many. And then we have a man asking a small boy if he has ever heard of Sauron. Both of them look terrified, which I like. We then have some sort of supernatural looking shots of a hand and a very shadowy figure rising. Again, I'm unsure if this is some sort of shape-shifting version of Sauron or another antagonist altogether. It's safe to say that the show will introduce a handful of sub-bad guys. Sauron will not be the only villain, that is for sure. Galadriel then states that if the evil rising is left unchecked, then it will take us all. This sounds like the very early beginnings of the need for an alliance of some sort. We theorised when this show was very first announced and it was said to be in the Second Age, that the story would be spread across 5 seasons with the elves and men, and maybe even dwarves, fighting a losing battle against Sauron, and eventually lead them to seeing the need to join together, forming the last alliance, which would be the basis of the final season. A battle which I'm confident is grand enough to begin at the start of a season and end at the end of the season. You couldn't do a battle like that justice in a single episode. We then see a shot of an anvil. I'm assuming this was perhaps Celebrimbor's or maybe even Sauron's, but it looks like the marks left on it resemble that of a flaming eye. There's a shot then of an exploding ship, and again it shows the true scale of the show, and to me, it looks like a full practical effect. If you're anything like me, then one of your biggest concerns with this show would have been an over-reliance on CGI. But with shots like that and the practical orcs, I feel a little more hopeful. Next we get a shot that I am 99.9% sure is Sauron. We see the hand of a dark armoured figure walking through a crowd of orcs. All of the orcs bow as he approaches. I love everything about these shots. The design of what looks like an orc camp, the look of the orcs is great, and I love how they are showing the respect that the Dark Lord commands, just by his presence. We then get a few shots that we have seen in the previous teaser, an epic cavalry charge shot, though it's a cavalry being led by Galadriel, still not sure how I feel about that, a shot of Galadriel then swimming in front of an enormous monstrous creature, another dwarven voiceover that says there can be no trust between hammer and rock. I'm not sure exactly what he is referring to, who is the hammer and who is the rock? I guess we'll find out. Finally, one of the most interesting reveals of the trailer is one of the character we believe to be Sauron, using some form of magic to use a leaf to cause a fire. He delivers a line here that says, "You have been told many lies about Middle-earth," clearly using his gift of deceit here on someone. I like this dialogue though, it sounds evil, yet kind of trustworthy. It almost has a kind of Voldemort type sound to it. We then see Arondir getting dragged back into the darkness before we get the logo reveal. Rings of Power. Then, hopefully if you stuck around after the Prime logo, we get the biggest drop of the trailer, in my opinion at least. A Balrog appearing and roaring from the shadows. This shot looks great, but let's be honest, it's quite simply a shot that literally could have been pulled straight from the Fellowship of the Ring. Everything about it is pretty much identical to Peter Jackson's version of Durin's Bane, which is what I'm assuming this is. Either way, I'm excited to see a live action Balrog again. And that is the end of the trailer. What are my thoughts? Well, to be honest, since the first few reveals of this show, and when we first started getting some news of the behind the scenes of the show and some of the decisions being made, my expectations were brought pretty low. However, because it's a big budget adaptation of a Tolkien story, I remained cautiously optimistic. At the end of the day, I love this world, this setting, these characters, so I should enjoy the show. But then, as things progressed, it kept becoming harder and harder to support. I am still nowhere near as convinced as I want to be. I mean, I really want to love this show. I read all the comments, I get your concerns, but with the last teaser, and now this, I feel a little bit more relaxed. Like I said at the start, it's not the show I would have made, but it's visually stunning, it's bound to have a great story, it's based on Tolkien's work, and it will have great characters in it. At least the characters that Tolkien wrote will be great, as long as they are true to the intended character traits as possible. I'm okay with adding in original characters and original storylines, as long as it does not interfere with the actual story. At the end of the day, this is a full universe that we only know a tiny percentage of. There are plenty of stories to be told, and I for one am here for it. I understand there is a full movement to boycott this show, but if you ask me, that is ridiculous. The same thing happened when Peter Jackson's trilogy was coming out. There were so many concerns, but it went on to become one of, if not the greatest achievement in cinema history. So my advice is, whether you think it looks great or awful, just give it a go and then make your judgment. Try not to jump on the hate bandwagon without being truly informed on a subject. That's at least what I'm going to do. I'd love to know what you thought of this trailer in the comments down below. I am pretty sure that's going to be the most we are going to get between now and the actual release of the show. The only thing I ask guys is please keep it civil in the comments. The amount of hate in this community due to this show has been really sad to see. The Tolkien fandom used to be such a great and welcoming place. Now it's filled with hate. Don't fall to it guys, let's stay positive. That's it from me today, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.